hands, are there any Toastmasters in the house today? Okay, maybe not here. Alright, so I'm a very passionate Toastmaster, and my journey started about 3 or 4 years ago. But prior to that, I did not know how to speak in front of a large audience. But today, I'm going to share with you information and also persuasive speaking tips that might help you enrich you in your situation, in interview, in situations like impromptu speaking, as well as situations like sales presentation that you need to persuade others. So as a child, I was not a very confident speaker. I would mutter under my breath, but I'm not able to project my ideas clearly to people. So over the last 3 years, I've joined a public speaking club called Toastmasters. And this is an international program with over 190 countries have this Toastmasters program. And right in Singapore, where I lived, Singapore has over 250 public speaking clubs, and these allowed us to have the platform, a continuous platform for us to continuously practice speaking in front of a group, in front of an audience, for informative speeches, humorous speeches, as well as inspirational speeches. So my journey for the last 3 years have inspired me to change my career, so I decided to step out of my comfort zone and also join the cruise as a speaker for leisure, to share more about enriching lectures. So this in brief, this is my journey. So my journey as a Toastmaster, when I was very young, I recall the incident where a teacher would laugh at me and she said, "You look like an ugly duckling." Can you imagine a teacher punching that balloon in your heart when I was just a child? So that experience, the pain point, dragged me into adulthood, where I had a sense of lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence. So throughout the years, I could not deliver very impactful business presentations in front of corporates as well. But along the way, I found that there is actually a very creative process and techniques that I will share over the next 20 minutes to share with you how to release this kind of techniques into your life, that you can benefit as well to become a better communicator, as well as a public speaker or even an MC or hosting your own private parties in future. So let's have a show of hands. Who thinks stories would have a big impact to share a certain presentation? Show of hands. Right? Okay, almost half the audience. That's why you're here today, right? So a lot of speakers and champion speakers in the world, public speaking domain, have shared that personal storytelling is a powerful tool to release that kind of connection with the audience. A lot of world speakers start with a powerful life story. And the life story normally revolves around a pain point. For instance, it may be a failure in life where you have a loss in relationship or loss in a loved ones, or you have a difficult past in the childhood. These stories actually connect very quickly in the audience. Why? Because it shows that you have a vulnerable side and you are also a human being. So by releasing that kind of personal stories, it helps you to connect very fast with the audience. And secondly, another powerful tool is called the humor. As you know, humor is very subjective, and a joke in Asian or Singapore might not resonate the same kind of laughter in an international audience. So this is something that I would like to highlight to you in the next few slides to look up for cultural sensitivity, and also what are the persuasive techniques that you can use. Right? So we all agree that personal stories have a powerful impact, and it's the key to speaking more with persuasion and power. And also just to share, this is actually my home club in Singapore. It's called the Money Mastery Singapore Toastmaster Club, where every month we'll meet twice a month to deliver our prepared speeches. It can be our travel journeys, our stories about our habits, our hobbies, anything that you want to share with the audience. And we come together to also fellowship to learn evaluation skills after each speech. There is a designated evaluator or teacher assigned to you who will give you constructive feedback to share with you what are the strengths of your speech, what are the areas of improvements that you may have for your next coming speech as well. So this is the example of a platform that allow you to practice that kind of persuasive speaking to different original audience. Because as traveling Toastmaster, in every city of the world, you can join a Toastmaster club. For instance, last month I was also in Bangkok, and I realized that in Bangkok, like Hong Kong as well, there are bilingual Toastmaster club in the country itself. So if you would like to take the opportunity to explore on your holiday, this is a good chance for you to join a Toastmaster club and visit them. So the first step would be to first build your sense of confidence and a kind of spontaneous spirit. So how are we going to do that? If you're only speaking maybe in front of a comfortable audience to your family and your colleagues, it becomes a very routine area. So how do you actually step out of the comfort zone? Would anybody dare to shout out a guess? What are the areas that you can practice this kind of spontaneous spirit of speaking? Okay, maybe to save time, I will just share. Spontaneous speaking actually helps you speak off the cuff and think on your speed. This is called the improv part. In some countries, there's improv or improvisation. So this will release that kind of that fun element within yourself. So as you practice more and more, you start to realize that, hey, I'm actually good at that. I'm actually good in stand-up comedy, for instance. I may be good in sharing a life story because I have so much of travel cruising stories to share. I can just share one specific episode in that cruise, and that life story can actually inspire someone in the audience sitting or listening there. And your story become an uplifting tale for somebody living in another country, right? So how I started to come up with this secret strategy is because I took part in the humorous speech contest in Singapore. It was a district level, which means it's a national-wide competition where I competed from the club to area and the division level. So this was an opportunity for me to also meet with the immediate past president, international director of the Toastmaster International, where they shared with me how to further improve my delivery as well. So in that situation, I also emerged as the first runner-up and the only and the youngest female contestant in Singapore to be the humorous swan. So why I did that, you might imagine, because I turned a very ugly duckling story, a story that, a pain point that a teacher or a community of people thought that, you know, I am an ugly duckling, I might be not confident in speaking out, or because of my skin color, how people would judge me when I speak. So these are the difficulties that I overcome. So in certain countries that I visit, they will tell me, are you from certain countries, or do you even speak English? So the kind of prejudice sometimes do exist in certain societies, but we can't remove that judgment on people. So I decided to turn that story and make it into a beautiful black swan. And in some countries, in the context of black swan in technology, as Steve Jobs said, black swan is a phenomenon of like Google. Google was a black swan in the field of technology innovation. And then I thought to myself, why don't I make that speech become like a performance? You have a live message to share with others, maybe with another female, or with somebody struggling with a life difficulty at that point. Maybe that story of a beautiful brave swan will inspire someone to do something out of the comfort zone. So after very many rounds of rigorous speaking to different audience, first I spoke to my immediate family and my Toastmaster club, and then I spoke to even taxi drivers or even a select group of people in a cafe to try out my humor. Because humor, as I said before, is very subjective. So you have to keep fine-tuning that line, that punch line, also to persuade the audience in a certain speech, whether it's informative, persuasive, or inspirational speech. So that was how I came up with the story, the live message of what I want to deliver to the international audience. So in essence, this is the techniques that I will share on persuasive speaking. It came up at a time where I was also asking God, how can I use this ugly side of life? How can I spin it into a beautiful stories like most of the world champion did, right? So I decided to come up with an acronym, as you can remember clearly. The first S will be the stories, the power of narratives for corporates to sell their innovation, their corporate values. This could be applicable to your personal life as well. If you meet your first date or you meet your first customer, that could be your first conversational starters. So secondly, it will be about humor. And thirdly, is about authenticity. This is something that I really love. Because if you can bear it off and be in your skin, no matter if you're Asian, Chinese, or American, or anybody, if you're comfortable standing in front of audience to share your life story, that will help you gradually build up your life, your self-confidence, and also gradually you fulfill your dream. And authenticity is something that a lot of the coaches and inspirational coaches like Tony Robbins would also stress that this is a powerful tool where the vulnerability of your side, your struggles will become a powerful inspirational story for the world. Right? Novelty. Novelty is something that I would say you will harness your own talent. It could be singing, it could be social dancing, it could be an area of drawing or storytelling or a musical inclined side of you. So why not use that kind of talent to weave it into a story form in your presentation? So you might be thinking right now, how does it happen? How does it execute in reality? So a simple way to explain this is that when I was younger, I always look at my dad draw. He was a creative director. So every time at home, he would use a pen and paper to draw. And I would look at him, as a very introverted person. I would just look at how he draw, the contrast, the perspective, how he's seeing things. Why is he drawing things in this manner? So the life perspective helps me to gain a holistic understanding. So when I grew up over the years, I thought creativity can be taught. It can be a process and also a quiet skill as well. So I started to draw as well. I started to experiment with dramatization using simple props. So one day I decided to step into a retail store, and out there were racks and racks of the arm covers and also the stockings. So I thought, hey, it looks something relevant for my storytelling to make an impression on the judges and the contestant and the audience. Why don't I make it a more memorable take-home message? So the keyword is a memorable take-home message. So I decided to experiment with that arm cover. Later I will show you. It is a very simple prop. It could even be a piece of paper and you stick it at the back of the wall. So what I did is I just stitched an eye that looks like a swan. So I wore it around my arm. So during the humorous speech contest, where I have to deliver that punchline, I just make it as an anchor, a visual aid. So the element will be like a beautiful black swan. Right? So there's an element of surprise, there's an element of mystery, there's also a message of a novelty for the audience to capture, because they will never expect that you will take something from your dressing, which is essentially your body language as well. So there's so many things going on to become a more persuasive presentation. So this thing that I want to share, and to me is a very powerful technique, is called the anchoring technique. Has anybody been to those neuro-linguistic programming courses or workshop, or even read about them? There's this technique called the anchoring in the NLP domain, right? So some of you might be familiar with it. So this was something that I didn't realize, but I only found out later when I spoke to another mentor. So he said, Shan, actually what you did in that speech, in that juncture, was actually an example of an anchoring. So last year, I watched a lot of TED Talks and also YouTube channels where you can just simply punch in anything you want and it will generate a search for you. So I was observing different world champions, how do they deliver that? So there was one occasion that I forgot to turn on the volume, so it became a muted presentation. Isn't it interesting? And from there, I gleaned a new form of insight just by watching a muted presentation. So what it goes is that presenter has a lot of very powerful body language, because 55% of our communication stems from visual, that means our body language. The vocal variety stems constitute about 38%, and the actual words that we use is a surprising 7%. So by watching even Obama, how Obama speaks, right? He used a lot of rhetorical devices. He used a lot of body language in anchoring the message to the audience, the electors, right? Even if you look at Martin Luther King when he said, "I have a dream." So by watching that speech, you'll realize that he used a lot of rhetorical devices, words and phrases that generate a very rhythmic phrases in the powers of the reader's mind that has a very powerful visual image, because there are actually three types of audience in the world. The first type is the auditory speakers. Some of you in the audience might be that. So sometimes when you just close your eyes and listen to the audience, you can remember things faster and more efficiently. Okay, the second type of speaker is actually the visual speakers. So I'm an example of that. Okay, so when you draw out something on the chart or the graph or have a visual element in the background, these will appeal more to the visual learners in the audience. And thirdly, the third kind of audience or readers is actually the kinesthetic. So this kind of kinesthetic learners require them to do something. So as a trainer, I always like to have a very participative, very engaging audience, and I will ask them to do something, right? So I will just ask them to do something like, okay, right now let's try something. Okay, turn to the neighbor beside you and say, "You are awesome," right? You're awesome, great. So for kinesthetic listeners and readers, they need to do something. Sometimes you need to ask the audience to stand up, right? So if you are game enough, you can do a little warm-up activity. Since it's the early morning and approaching lunch, right? So I will teach you this technique called the kiss, green, yawn. Okay? So you can look to me or your partner beside you and do this motion. This is a very good vocal exercise. Before you step in for an important presentation or speech, you can do this, right? Kiss, green, yawn. So you do it in sequential order. The first one looks like this. Kiss. Okay, then green. Okay, white, green. Look, white, green. Kiss, green, then yawn. Right? So you can keep doing this. Okay, let's have 30 seconds and you do this with the partner beside you. Kiss, kiss, green. So you continuous doing this for 8 times. That's a suggestion, right? Kiss, green, kiss, green. So this will actually release the muscles around your jawline so that you don't run over your words. For me, I have a tendency of speaking very fast. I would like to record my own presentation most of the time and rewind and play back to see myself. It is very awkward, to be frank, but I noticed that I speak super fast like a bullet train, so I decided to slow down. And in fact, there is a technique as well. I noticed that a lot of speakers across Asia to Europe to America, they like to have space fillers. They like to say basically, actually, and then, so. These are space fillers. So how do we get rid of that? So if you think that you have the tendency to say basically, actually, then, in between the bridging of the sentences, you can take a deep breath and then pause. Okay, so this will take away the anxious anxiety to spill out that same word again and again, because it will become a distraction to the audience if you keep saying the same word. Imagine I say every sentence, I say so. It'll be a turn off for the audience. Agree? Okay? Yeah. So these are the powerful speakers that I thought they are legendary in terms of persuasive speakers. Steve Jobs as well. He always talk about the why, right? The why followed by, if you can imagine a concentric circle, the why will be at the center, the core and the crux of the presentation. Why should you listen to me, right? I'm young, okay? I may not have as many experience as you sitting in the audience. Why? Or why should I buy this new Apple product as versus a Samsung product? Okay, so why? You need to speak to the audience of why. And then you talk about the how and then the what. So this is the pattern for persuasive speaking in that order, right? You need to appeal to the audience in terms of the pillars of persuasion. So, for examples, you need to look at ethos, pathos, and also using even statistics like logos to back up your facts. These are more of the inspirational speakers, as you recognize them, Tony Robbins and Fred Ziegler. I like this quote that he said, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." So you can use powerful quotations to start a conversation, to start a presentation as well, to infuse that kind of novelty, or you can come up with your own quotation that will be even more impressive. I like this statement very much, and is always ingrained into my mind. Facts tells, but stories will sell, right? Your personal story is the best because it is unique to yourself, nobody knows, and it can be a very memorable, value-adding message to somebody. These are further tips of how to improve or modify your message for the world. For instance, when you are doing a presentation or in your sharing, you should use the present tense to make it more relevant to the audience. For instance, there I am, I'm more immediate than I was in the past. So everything has to be in the past tense or present tense. Okay? You can also dramatize your story to animate that, to make it more dynamic for the audience. Imagine a speaker who is just standing at a podium, people will fall asleep. But if you're moving across the stage and dramatizing the story, you'll be more edge a more deeper impression for them. You could even segment the stage to different life stages. For instance, when you're talking about the past, you can move on to the left side. And then when you're talking about the present day, when I was an ugly duckling, people laugh at me. They say, "Oh, you are a duck," or "Why are you speaking like this?" Then after that, in the present day, I learned that public speaking is a good domain, and Toastmaster helps me improve to become a more better communicator. And today, I've decided to enroll myself as a cruise speaker to hope to share some tips and secrets to the audience to help them improve their life, to find a message that resonates in everybody's hearts and minds. Right, so you can see and take a look at what is the environment that you're speaking to. So this is what I mean by dramatize your story and animating your move, because ultimately body language, your body speaks, your facial expressions. Some of you might be too far, but if you're sitting closer, you can actually see the speaker's facial expressions, their body gestures. Normally, I don't really like to use the mic because you can't really hear the differentiating vocal variety because the mic actually levels every speaker to the same. So when you're doing vocal projection, you can actually hear the quality of the voice, how signature the voice is of the particular speaker, right? Obama also have a very signature sound for the world. The way he delivers his speech has a very signature message as well. So things like that. And finally, you would like to end the story with a very impactful key takeaway for the audience, because the body is important, but the opening and the conclusion is equally impeccable to the audience as well. Okay, so humor is a very sensitive topic. I remember an instance where I keep practicing the same joke until I became very tired, and even the listeners felt the kind of life force that was within me become dwindling. Because if you keep on doing the same jokes over and over again, you became very tired inwardly. So you have to fine tune. Hey, maybe this doesn't appeal to children or doesn't appeal to the adult, maybe in a different demographic. So you need to fine tune accordingly. So I decided that humor, you have to be very mindful. So in one instance, I talk about duck, D-A-R-K versus D-U-C-K. So the articulation and punctuation of the words has to be very precise. If not, other audience will think, hey, what she's talking about? Duck. And then she's talking about duck. Dark. So dark chocolate versus you look like an ugly duckling, like a duck, right? So the punctuation and also the cultural sensitivity of the jokes need to be relevant to the audience, right? You could do it at maybe a more comfortable setting within your friends to try out different jokes. And when you're delivering that punchline, remember to pause before you deliver the punchline. Why do I say that? Because every time you pause, you hold the attention of the audience. Without the pause, you do not have the audience applause, right? So the dynamic pause is very, very powerful. So remember that. If you keep talking and talking, people's mind needs a moment to think and to digest what you have been saying, right? So you need to make a more deliberate pause in the message in order to deliver the punchline. All right, try doing it. Okay. Finally, if you add all these elements together, I'm sure you will captivate and mesmerize the audience in any context and any situation. Right? So anchoring is very important. Anchor the message at the beginning, at the body of the message, as well as the conclusion of the message. Imagine I say that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. So then you start telling the story behind that inspirational quote, right? So, but every time you weave in the same message 3 times, and the human minds remember things perfectly in trees. Trust me, this is tried and tested, and research and social psychologists have proved that things that are done in tree has a very powerful impact to the audience, and they can remember things very easily in trees. Right? So you can make your message more memorable. Okay? And last but not least, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to practice improvisation or improv fun, you can come forward to talk to me after this session. I would like to do a session tomorrow or in the afternoon, because essentially I think that to be humorous or to have your own signature style or your branding, you need to improvise a lot. So in order to do that, one way for you to do is to practice improvisation, speaking off the cuff, thinking on your feet. And in my Toastmaster Club, we tried something that was rarely done in Singapore. It's called a group improvisation. So normally we'll give them a topic. For instance, like the most memorable cruise experience was ... So the speaker who picked the question has to speak off the cuff for at least 1 minute, right? So in this exercise, it forces the speaker to think about past incident or future incidents to relate to the topic. So it was just a mere 1 minute or 1.5 minutes for the speakers to share any stories that they would like to. So this is an example of an improvisation topics. It is very powerful for interviews. Just to share another story, I was working in the Singapore Tourism Board and also the International Enterprise. So in my corporate job, I have to help a lot of Singapore-based enterprise to internationalize in Turkey, Europe, Asia Pacific as well. So a lot of times I need to deliver pitches to the publishers, to the buyers, to garner support for a cluster of consumer electronics companies. So I realized that by pulling all these soft skills together, like thinking on your feet, you're able to reply to any foreign delegations' questions. You can also reframe a certain question to your benefit. And also you can add value by giving your own opinions and your advice to your clients as well, and also the minister or ambassador right at the moment. So what I'm saying is that improvisation is critical and is really paramount to your practice to become a more persuasive speaker and a more versatile speaker in the future. So this is what I'm preaching for, improvisation fun, to relax, enjoy and have fun. And exactly this is why we are cruising, right? We are relaxing, we're enjoying. The stage is so big, but I feel very lonely now, looking at the audience. So if you're game for some fun, you can sign up with me. I'm happy to give you some questions and we can practice together to help each other become better, to give each other tips, to become a better speaker. So Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you will keep in touch with me after this cruise. You can also right now go to my website at www.shanswan.com, or you can find me on my Facebook. I'll be happy to address any of your queries or face-to-face. And yes, I will be scheduled to speak on a TED Talk in Singapore in April. And I hope you'll be a successful one. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this has been an enriching session for everybody. And to the Chinese sitting in the audience and everybody, today is the 11th day of the Lunar New Year, and yesterday was my Chinese birthday. So I decided that this was a very interesting photo because last year we had the year, and this is the year of the monkey, and the monkey is a symbol of agility, a symbol of fun, and a symbol of creativity. So ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very prosperous monkey year, and also bless you in the cruise and have a safe journey ahead. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.